Okay, I think we should get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Debbie Conyers. I'm ECIA's VP of Member Engagement, and we're really excited to share some success stories from our panelists today on how they've improved efficiencies and driven cost reductions through this automated data exchange technology. Just a couple housekeeping messages. Just you'll all be in the mute mode, but please feel free to use the Q&A. We do want your questions. The guys will definitely try to answer any of them that we can today. And of course, we can always take them afterwards and get answers back to you. And the recording of the webinar will be made available, and we'll be able to download the PDF version of this PowerPoint as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce David Loftus, who is our CEO of ECIA. David?
Thanks, Deb, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. The conversation today is, I think, going to cover a great accomplishment of ECIA and its members. About 2 years ago, an idea was raised in our rep council as part of ECIA about how to be able to improve the data transactions back and forth between their rep firms and their principals. This idea was really germinated through the conversation between the different rep owners that sit on our rep council. And that idea was then brought by Alan Ahern to our board of directors. The board of directors supported the effort, also coordinated back across our manufacturing and distributor councils as well. And we decided to be able to finance this effort that you're going to be hearing about today. And I'm thrilled to say that with the initial idea and with the investment that was made, we were able to line up great partners that are part of this call, both on the service provider side with Peter Heges from Metal Cloud, and with our member friends at C&K, who have been the sponsor manufacturer behind this effort. The effort is called ETL, Extract, Transfer, and Load, and we'll talk about that in a lot more detail. I really want to thank the members that have driven this, especially Alan, who this is really a brainchild of his that has come from just observing how to be able to better improve not only his business, but the business of his principals. And that's really a foundation value of ECIA, the opportunity for us to be able to work together as a team to be able to help improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our industry is what is our fundamental value in ECIA. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it back to Debbie Conyers. Debbie's going to tell you a little bit about the support resources that are available to be able to help you better understand ETL, and then we'll launch in with Alan and the team to be able to share more about the capabilities of this great new technology. Thanks so much for attending. Deb, back to you.
Thanks, David. So we have quite a bit of information available on the ECIAnow.org site. So just wanted to take a minute to show you where to find this information. So if you click on the ECIAnow.org and go to the Issues and Practices tab, and then click down on the Automated Data Exchange, the ETL. Then the next, you'll go to that page and you'll see there's a ton of resources available there. There's a video, there's a PowerPoint, white paper, etc. So it's very easy to find, of course, once you know where to find it. All right, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. We've got Alan Ahern from Crowley Associates, John Zavorsky from C&K Americas, and Peter Heges from Metal Corp. All right. So Alan, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this project is It's been very exciting for the council. I want to thank the ECIA for obviously, helping to fund this initiative. I found it to be an extremely important initiative for a few reasons. One is that scope limitation isn't just manufacturers, representatives, NBOs transferring to the manufacturer. It opens the door for so many other efficiency gains that can happen, such as design registrations. I know there's a program in place with ECIA now about streamlining some of those processes. I think that technology is potentially one of the solutions there. But really, I think the goal, and if we go back in history, when the manufacturers didn't necessarily have a CRM, a formal CRM in place, or if they had a formal CRM in place, the need for the data to be so immediate and has actually became extremely cumbersome to meet the demands of multiple manufacturers. And I can just share one thing, that when we hire people, we profile them as inside salespeople. That's what the title is. That's, you put your job out and you find the best salesperson you can. And we've done that, and we've hired some great inside people. Unfortunately, we've lost some because they've done more on the administrative side than on the selling side. And that was, more than just a red flag. And I was like, hang in there, we're going to get the efficiency going. So really, we don't want to reprofile our people in our company to say we're hiring admins. So what we're hoping is that this technology will proliferate amongst all the constituents within our industry. And I really feel that that's something that is can happen within our company. We've had it in place now for about a year. And I can tell you that one individual, we call them product line managers. She saves about 60% of her day without having to go into our system and going, in this case, the C&K system, to enter, design registrations and then creating an NBO. It is created in one location and, replicating itself in both. So I'm grateful that C&K allowed us, the ability to use them and to sponsor that. But more importantly, for our company, we're really hoping that this get embraced, because being able to take an inside salesperson and have them do what they do best, which is sales. That's where the excitement is. That's where the fun is. We are a sales company, and that's where we really want to see our people going, is doing what they love. And yes, there's always going to be administrative roles, but I want to have that as least as possible and keep the people that we have, motivated and doing their job. So it's been extremely successful for us, and I do hope that others, can investigate this further and they can see the benefit they can have for their own company. So, John, seems that you're one of my principals. I think I'd like to ask you, not putting words in your mouth, and if I already did, I apologize, but can you give some of your...
It's okay.
Can I ask you to kind of comment on the process?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is John Zversky. I'm the Director of Sales for C&K for the Americas. And part of our go-to market strategies, we have 14 different rep organizations or family members and partners throughout the Americas. And of those 14 organizations, we have about 178 customer-facing individuals. It's a lot of people, creating a lot of revenue, a lot of opportunities. Most recently now with the virtual offices and the virtual meetings, the Zoom meetings, such as this, or face-to-face, or over the phone. So it creates a lot of opportunities. And about 2 years ago, as David indicated, this particular issue came up that we can't communicate. Our systems don't communicate, and our rep partners and family members are all doing dual, triple, quadruple of the same data. And they're becoming data clerks versus actually selling stuff. All right, that's what we want them to do. That's what we pay them to do and everything else. And we all want them to sell more stuff. So the more we free them up to actually go out and turn over rocks and identify new opportunities, work with our distributors, work with everybody, the better we all are. So those 2 years ago, when the ECI came and asked about us, we said, yeah, you can use our Salesforce in a sandbox mode to play around to see how we could do this with metal. And over the last 2 years, it's evolved immensely and is extremely successful from our standpoint. Like anything, it takes a little bit of learning curve, and we've gone through some ups and downs, but in general, it's fantastic. It's allowing people not to, as Alan indicated, to have to do, the salesperson puts it into their individual CRM system. And then anywhere from 1 day to 5 days later, I see it in my system. That's too long. All our customers now today want shorter, better, faster. As we all know, in any early involvement program, we all want to see it at the design table. The faster we get back, no matter what that price might be or anything else, if we're back first, we're saying to the customer, we want to be part with you. We want to be a partner with you. That's very key. This system allows that to happen. If I can shorten my response by that 1 week that maybe it takes to get from the salesperson to the admin to redo it and then into our system and then back out to me, if I can shorten that down to a day or instantaneously, that's great. All right. And that's what we want. We want everybody selling more stuff. At the same time, as a side note, because we saw this in progressing the way it is, we've also implemented on my side, and my engineering side and costing side, a way to make our quote process down from 2 weeks down to 2 days. So we see this whole process evolving to a much faster and make everybody that much more effective.
Yeah, those are definitely some powerful statements, John. And I think the proof that I can speak of anyway is the response time that we have gotten back from C&K. When we put something in, it hits the radar and things come back very quickly. Peter, can you actually speak a little bit about how this all works? Because it sounds great from what we're talking about, but can you actually put some mechanisms here and actually describe that?
Yeah. Hey, thank you. And first, I just want to thank you, Alan and John for working with us to develop, essentially a protocol and a framework that pretty much any company that's in the electronics industry can utilize to transfer data automatically from, any CRM to any other CRM. So, for respect to if Alan, you have 10 different manufacturers that you work with, we can actually synchronize that data from point A to all different 10 manufacturers, within seconds, right? So that's kind of the time frame and the scalability that we provide. When we started this project with Alan, we also had a number of ideas that we wanted to bring to the table, which included a communal aspect to this idea where people could actually understand what was going on, could ask questions, could input their knowledge about the particular technology, maybe even go and find some information out there, right? And so we developed a communal portal called the Metal Hub, and you'll see a couple of different names that are out there, and I'll explain them as we go forward. But the Metal Hub is essentially a communal portal that gives you insight into knowledge base, FAQs, issuing tickets, tracking your projects, looking at subscriptions and all those types of things. So it's kind of a nice single place for you guys to work together, throughout the industry. The second part is the Metal Cloud, right? So the Metal Cloud is the actual engine that actually will transfer the data from point A to point B. And if you go to the metalcloud.com, you'll be able to then see kind of how we do things. There's a nice couple of videos out there on how it all works. And then the Metal Corp is essentially the corporation or the company that kind of supports all of this. And I also just want to say thank you for David and the ECIA and Debbie for putting all this together and helping us get it to in the hands of all the people that might be interested in it. So we appreciate it. We're excited that it all came to fruition. it's it's been probably since we started the work, it's been probably about a year to get it to fruition. And we now have about 8 different companies that are, leveraging metal, and you'll see those. So we're still young, but we're moving in the right direction, and it seems like everybody's pretty interested in doing it. So thank you.
I wanted to follow up on a couple of things that Debbie had initially mentioned as a resource in the Resource Center. It's a bit of a technical read, which is the white paper. And the white paper, I think, is very important for companies who are thinking about this type of technology and how they can apply it, deploy it within their own company. Initially there's a lot of concerns, whether it be where's my data going? Is it going up in the cloud? How secure it is. I think the white paper actually does a very good job, albeit technical, but there's sections in there that actually talk about a couple of things that are very important. What company, and we worked very closely with the manufacturer councils, the distributor council, to determine some things that were critical for them, and a lot of them are very detailed in there. They did not want their information going into the cloud, and it doesn't. They don't want to have vendor lock-in, it doesn't. They don't want to have special software applications residing in 2 places, it doesn't. So if you read through that, there's 5 main bullet points that actually are very important.
Yeah,
But
and
one
Debbie,
of
thank you. I wanted to just to kind of show that slide that talks about what are the 5 kind of founding principles that we tried to abide by when we were developing this, right? And I think the big 2 that really have made this successful and made it so that companies wanted to participate in this is, 1, the data security aspect, right? The ability for us to transfer data in a secure fashion from point A to point B. And then inevitably, the second part is that we don't actually store any sensitive data in the cloud, which makes our engine very different than other companies that may be out there. So never is there a security vulnerability from a hacking standpoint or anything like that, because we don't actually store any of your pertinent or relevant or sensitive data in the cloud.
And I like to use simple terms because I'm a simple person. ETL, or what's happening, is no different than a human being within Crowley. So the human being within Crowley goes to the specified interface that C&K would provide for us via a password to access the information data points. And the only difference is our people create the opportunities within our CRM, and through the synchronous, we click the button on from the synchronization standpoint, it moves its way over the exact same way. So it's just a difference of the hoops and the loops that can go through. And John made something a very good point. Not only does it have to come from an internal person within Crowley, but an external person, an outside salesperson could leave an account, and in their parking lot of the customer, they could update their NBO, and it goes directly to C&K. So it doesn't have to go from a salesperson to into an administrative person and then make its way over. It can literally go from customer visit, hopefully not writing it up while you're driving, and then directly into directly to C&K, as John said, get there first, be real time and take the actions.
Yeah, and Debbie, would you put the PowerPoint on again and put it to the slide that shows the different trigger mechanisms? So, Alan brings up a great point. And I'm sure that you all will have a lot of questions, later on. But what we do is on a per opportunity basis, right? So a lot of questions came up with, well, do we have to actually, right there, that would be great, Debbie. Do we actually have to sync everything? How often does it sync? What can we sync, right? And this kind of gives a nice kind of overview of the different options that you may have depending upon what your CRM is. But we have things from a checkbox that we added to, Crowley, but most of the time there are typically already embedded fields in your CRM that your product line managers or your inside sales or your outside salespeople want to have that opportunity sync when that particular field gets to a particular point. So we can actually at point in time where it gets to a 90 or a 95%, if you want that now to be sunk over to the manufacturer, it will then go ahead and have that trigger. So it really is quite flexible, and it has the ability to push pretty much any data that you have and that the manufacturer needs or required over from point A to point B, which would include things like account names, the opportunity, the products, the pricing, the notes that are associated with it. So it pretty much has a unidirectional and a bidirectional capability. So if there are things that you would like the manufacturer to then put back into your own CRM, if you're a rep, then it can be done that way as well.
Kind of a side benefit for C&K is every manufacturer has different part number configurations, dots, dashes, maybe on the catalog, it may have a part number, but an internal part number. What Peter has created within the directional, bidirectional, is we take C&K's real-time part number table. So whatever part numbers that C&K has, if they just introduced 25 new part numbers, we have those 25 new part numbers. So we're talking the same language. So when we're creating an NBO and we're picking the part, we're not picking a part that John's company has to figure out, well, what part really is this? Because we actually have the real part. And we also have the updated real-time price table for that part. So for example, if I was entering a new NBO and I picked the correct part number from C&K, on the grid, I can see, some column pricing. So if I want to give John a good estimate, if it's 10,000 pieces, is it 50 cents? Is it $1? Sometimes our sales engineers don't know. So that actually is extremely helpful. So the accuracy of that NBO from a weighted value standpoint arrives at C&K as a much better picture of what that opportunity is numerically, and it doesn't need to be translated into that correct part number.
Yeah, and I'll add just a little bit more to that. There are going to be, and we have worked through a lot of those types of nuances, especially in the the rep world, where they might even be quoting about parts that aren't necessarily ready from a manufacturer's standpoint. How do you handle that type of idea? And what's really neat about the whole engine itself is all we are doing is taking that human logic that you guys have been using over the last 100 years that says, hey, if I enter in this information over here in the rep side, I then have to think about or correlate that information somehow over on the manufacturer side. And what we have been able to do is just working through that logic, we can now automate any of those particulars that were maintained, and that knowledge of how to enter something, especially in C&K's CRM versus how they would enter it into Alan's CRM. And Alan mentioned this kind of earlier. What happens to that knowledge when a person potentially leaves a company, maybe to go on and do something, maybe they retired, whatever it might be. Well, with Metal, that logic and that knowledge surrounding how to enter something into a particular manufacturer's CRM is held within the company. So when a new employee comes on, it's very easy to walk through, hey, these are all the things that are happening with C&K when you enter in an NBO over on your rep side. And these are the different transformations, and that's kind of where the T and the ETL comes from. So how do we transform that data? And what should you expect once you go over to, a particular manufacturer's, in this case, C&K's, CRM, what should you see? So it really does a nice job of being able to hold on to that knowledge, train new people, and inevitably automate that human logic that needs to happen if you were not to automate it. So, John, any thoughts on that as far as I know that you probably have seen, if we talk about maybe status percentages or things like that, C&K has different types of status for a particular opportunity versus maybe what Alan and his CRM with Infor has. Do you want to explain that a little bit further, or is it? Did I do
it's pretty
did I do
simple.
enough?
The fact that we take it from the lowest level where the rep goes in and sees or talks to a customer, and they enter an opportunity. That opportunity is, strictly in a discovery stage. So he or she can put anything in there they want, and it gets into us. We don't count that to any funnels or anything else. It's more of a placeholder. They've learned about a new program. It's going to use, in this case, a switch of ours of some sort. We don't know if it's going to be A or B or C, but as it progresses through the chain, all right, as it becomes more clear from early involvement on, that's where we start basically measuring. And then from there, again, assigning certain percentages, et cetera. And that, even more so than anything, and as Peter knows, this actually drives our engineer to work on a project. All right. So the real-time information, and then it steps through this process of the various levels, is very key for us to say, yep, we need to spend time on this opportunity. It's real. And the sooner we get that, the better.
So, John, a question for you, and it's kind of stacked because I already know the answer. But for other manufacturers, they're taking the NBO data and taking it one step further, where they're creating, flash reports, and they're creating, the velocity reports off the NBOs, things of that nature. I have to imagine that what you referred to earlier, as far as having the data faster and the accuracy of the part numbers and the accuracy of the dollars. I guess I'm just going to ask you, how has that impacted your ability to have that, AI dashboard and things of that nature?
It's tremendous. I review it on a monthly basis with my CEO and the upper management across the board. It's used on a daily basis by us. We do track all that information, and we're getting better at it. As a matter of fact, we're adding more and more as we progress, and we're associating manpower hours, engineering hours, sales dollars, sales revenue, all that into this one report. And it's tremendous, guys. I'm 100% behind this whole program, and I hope all our reps sign up for it because it's going to make my job easier. I'm all about doing things easier, guys.
So, hey, at this point, I see that there's a couple of questions that are coming in, and I think some of our slides will help answer them as well. Before we delve into those questions, is there anything else from Alan or John from your side that you would like to just touch base on, or?
No, I'm looking forward to having more manufacturers, join in, especially the ones that we have a tremendous amount of volume going back and forth. I think that creates just a lot of opportunities. So we're looking forward to expansion of manufacturers, embracing the things that and the values that John's just described. I think there was a question there about a live demo, and there's a partial live demo on the video that's actually on the ECIA website now. But there's definitely an opportunity for us to have either a private session with Peter. Peter can access our CRM to show it. So you can actually, see that data moving across live. I don't think we have I think there's quite a few pieces of that inside of that video, but a live demo is certainly available.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth a look. What we tried to do is create a couple of good videos that go from kind of a very high level 40,000 foot view of what we do all the way down to actually watching one of the product line managers from Crowley enter in an NBO into their system. What is the trigger mechanism that they use, and then actually see it at the that it gets replicated to C&K's SFDC. And as far as the setup or how this all works, we're a little bit different than a traditional SaaS company where you can kind of sign up and try this out because initially the key to this is for us to understand what are the pertinent or relevant fields within your CRM that are required for a particular manufacturer. So simply signing up and trying to log in and then replicating your data, there's a bit of we call it our pre-flight or assessment phase, right? Where we actually go through and work with you to kind of document exactly what each manufacturer has and what you will need to be inputting, and also create that automated logic, right? So that's kind of an initial project fee, and it only happens once for every single manufacturer that you would work with. From there on, you would then be able to integrate with any manufacturer, I would say much more quickly, but we do the initial project in about 2 weeks, and we do projects thereafter, typically in about 1 week. And then inevitably, whether or not it's an already existing manufacturer or whether or not it's an already existing rep, both bidirectionally, changes that timeline just a little bit. As far as pricing, kind of goes hand in hand with what I just talked about. So there is a project kind of setup fee that we do, and then there's an ongoing kind of maintenance fee that we charge. It's about $10 a day, which is about the cup of coffee for the ongoing maintenance fee, and that is on a per manufacturer basis. So if you have one manufacturer that you're replicating data to, you're spending $10 a day. Hopefully that answers.
Looks like we have a question or two. Debbie, you want to watch the chat room? Kind of hard to keep looking.
I know. It's coming in on chat versus the Q&A. So question, I guess, so the efficiency comes from reducing the data entry from multiple touches to one touch. Does it matter which side the data entry happens? Is the Metal Hub an app on your machine, or does this all happen behind the scene, behind ES, for example?
Yeah. So there's a couple different questions or statements in there. So from the first one, you're absolutely right. So our goal is to not have the reps ever need to go into a manufacturer's CRM and modify it, right? They always can go in and view and look and see and run reports if they want to, but the goal of Metal is that you work with inside your CRM, and then that data will transfer over. As far as updates go, right? So if you think about every single opportunity that has updates, whether or not it be additional products or additional notes, or some products may be in a lost state and some in a won state. Again, every update that you do to your CRM, when it's sunk over, will get automatically updated on the manufacturer side. If there is logic that's needed for a bi-directional type of synchronization, that is definitely doable. Sometimes we don't talk so much about it because in many of the in the instances that we're working with now, the reps kind of control those opportunities, right? And the manufacturers just need to see that information, be able to report on it, be able to talk about it, be able to forecast. And then if there are any additional notes that they want to put in, we can definitely, do a bi-directional sync on any field. But typically it's a the synchronization of the true NBO is going from the rep side to the manufacturers. Now, with that being said, and like Crowley said, like Alan said earlier, the product information is actually coming from C&K and being put back into Crowley's CRM, which is Infor, and therefore they have an up-to-date price list and an up-to-date product list that they can always choose from, to create their NBOs.
So one of the other questions that just came in is how are approval processes and validation rules handled?
Yeah, and there's one follow-up, one more
sorry.
point on the previous one. It says, how does this happen? Does this happen behind the scene or on premise? And so the engine itself is, we don't touch anything that's inside your CRM, right? I say that as long as your CRM has some sort of web interface or an API integration that we can at least talk to. If you have an on-premise system that maybe it doesn't have external APIs, we actually can run it's kind of a widget, if you will, inside your environment that'll actually talk to Metal, and it will then query securely your CRM, work through Metal as a transition point, and then up to your manufacturer. So I just want to finish that. So
Thanks
as far
for
as
that clarification.
yeah, and as far as approval processes, right, and validation rules, there is definitively the capability to do that, right? Most of the time that we've found is that let's take it on a per manufacturer basis, right? So from John's sales people's perspective, they probably have rules that they like to abide by for most of their representatives. And so when it becomes maybe over a 15%, or if it has a particular value of a particular field, then John wants to know about it, right? And he wants his team to know about it. So we can set up either on a per manufacturer basis, we can set it up on a per opportunity basis, as far as the rules of how that data gets transferred over from point A to point B. As far as approvals go, we could also set up emails that get alerted inside the flow, if you will. So if you set it up to be, if you wanted to make sure that your inside reps couldn't synchronize that over until you got an approval or an email, we would then be able to go ahead and send that notification, or even that notification with a link that would make it so that you'd have to go into your CRM and click a button to approve it. We can do all of those types of things.
I do know from talking with some manufacturers, they indicated that they're constantly adding fields within their CRM. And I do know that from our perspective anyway, if our product line manager is in fact entering information and it made its way over like it's supposed to, but something has changed, she'll get an email and it'll tell her there's something went wrong with this data transference. So maybe they moved that field, they called it something different. We originally may have called it customer name, but if that customer name became something else and it went there, nothing was in that spot, it goes back to her. And when it goes back, it actually creates the opportunity for a ticket for Peter's organization to go look and figure out, well, what this changed, this field changed. So it's very scalable from that perspective of you'll always know if something made its way over, that you're not going to end up with a NBO that's been created or modified that's going to be I don't know, that when the data didn't make its way over there properly.
Yeah, and so we do we do a whole, we do a lot of checks and balances and reporting. And we have the flexibility to, provide reports of, instantaneously about opportunities that got synchronized over. We can do reports, by the end of the day so that you can validate and ensure that all of your opportunities for that day or week, were done. And inevitably, if there is a particular, like Alan brings up, if there's a particular field that got, updated by the manufacturer and they didn't happen to tell anybody about that, which would never happen, you will get a notification as the rep to actually say, hey, by the way, the manufacturer now requires this field, so you're going to need to put it into your CRM, and we'll then be able to correct that and correlate that. Debbie, you're on mute. Oops. Sorry.
Yep. We have another question. It's asking, do updates to the CRM software on either the rep or the supplier side impact the integration?
The answer, if there's lots of different types of updates, I assume that you're saying maybe a patch or something along those lines. So if the CRM changes maybe its APIs or how they communicate, we usually will get notified that that has occurred, and we would then update those APIs accordingly. As far as software, typical, in a CRM, many of the updates don't impact that core functionality, which includes accounts and leads and contacts, opportunities, products, and pricing, right? Those typically don't get moved all that often. So when you do an update, those things don't get changed. And so therefore the general answer to that question is no, we don't get impacted. Can we? There are areas that could, but we typically, what we try to really do is work with the manufacturers, before they do any sort of updates, to be in the line of communication so that we preemptively, solve those particular issues that may come about, if they were going to do upgrades or changes.
Yeah, Peter, this is David. I think probably one of the principal ways that you would have to react to a change is if the manufacturer added a new field that they wanted information on, or if you wanted, if the rep had a new field that they were capturing information and wanted that communicated, you guys set up the interface, as I understand it, really trying to make a one-to-one correlation from a field in one CRM to a field in another.
That is correct. And you're absolutely right. If they were to change the required fields, they would be able to then get notified of that new required field. They would open a ticket with us. We'd talk to the manufacturer. We would, it's pretty easy to then add that additional field, and then you'd be good to go. Meanwhile, the whole point of that is, inside your existing CRM from the rep side standpoint, you don't have to do anything different except for just wait, right? The only thing that you'll need to do is update that one particular field if that happens to be the issue. And inevitably it will sync over when that, when that field gets updated, on both sides of the house.
I think it raises another question that I know I've been asked over the last month or two about the different CRM systems. So do you want to speak to that a little bit? Any of you? John, I know you've worked with a few, tested it with a few different CRM systems.
And I'll jump in on that one just real quick, and then I'll let others, jump in as well. But as far as the different types of CRMs that we have already worked with and that we've integrated with, we've done everything from an Access database on premise to a Dynamics database on premise to, like I said, Infor or SFDC, or even Empowering or Rep Fabric, right? So there really aren't, we haven't found any CRMs, although I'm sure we will, that we can't communicate with, right?
Yeah, we've worked through a couple different reps with a couple different CRMs. I think we have a slide on that too, do we not, Peter? Showing a couple of the ones we've done already. Can we bring that up at all, Deb? think it might be slide 6.
No,
Yeah, slide 9, I think it is.
Slide 9, sorry.
It's okay.
That's
I
enough.
believe this is it.
Yeah, there you go. That's correct. So basically, like I said, we have a few of our reps on the system now. And like anything, once it's Peter's group gets it and they map everything, once we get through that process and confirm everything, we've not seen any issues. It's just the initial setup that we got to, do our due diligence with.
Sorry. It's Friday, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that has been, as we've learned, okay, this proof of concept from start to where we are now, Peter was, chosen as a subject matter expert and looked at many ways to get to where we are now, from different methods of communication. What is the best way of doing it? What's the most scalability? And the one thing I want to kind of stress, and I think this is extremely important, is this methodology of how all this data is being transferred. If everyone did it the same way, then everyone would benefit from it, because C&K would only need to be mapped once. And let's say Crowley got mapped once, and another manufacturer of Crowley's comes on board and they're mapped. I don't need to be mapped anymore. So that's the beauty of it. As the more manufacturers come on, if I've been mapped once, I don't need to be mapped. They already know what I call product, what I call customer name. So really, I think, from a efficient deployment perspective, the more manufacturers and more reps, that get on board, it's very possible that a manufacturer of Crowley and another manufacturer of Crowley have already been part of it. I don't have to do anything because it knows where everything is. And Peter just has the dictionary to say, okay, this goes here, this goes here. So for me, that's the utopia world where everybody kind of starts unifying and using this method, and the efficiency gains for everyone is just unimaginable. It's how much time could be saved. And as we all know, time is money. Time is what we're competing against right now. We only have so much time in the day. Any other questions down there, Deb?
Yeah. One question is, do service fees scale with volume and work bandwidth, or is it a fixed fee? So I could show your slide where I show them where they can go and get more information, Peter, or do you want to address that?
Yeah, no, I mean, both are fine. I can
Okay.
address it. So yeah, like we said, guys, it's it's $10 a day per manufacturer that you synchronize with. And if you think about, even if you had so that we do have some scalabilities to that, or some price changes as you increase the total numbers. But if you think about how much time you're saving versus the $10 a day for your reps, which I believe your reps, typically they probably have a salary above $50,000 typically. I don't want to make assumptions to anybody, but that's typical. So for $10 a day, that's the cost of automating your business.
Plus the
Awesome.
timeliness, plus the accuracy.
There's so many other things there. I always like to parallel it to this, and I think this is an interesting, if you wanted to look at what the technology really is. The technology, if you paralleled it to like an email system, right? Today, everybody just expects that when you type in an email and you hit the send button, it's going to get to the people that actually need to read it, you know? And so today, you know, we're all kind of doing this. We don't have that send button for our NBOs. So imagine typing in an email that didn't have a send button, and I'd actually have to go and type that email into everybody else's email system. That seems very silly. And so essentially what we are is a send button for your, you know, for your CRMs. And that's you know, that's as simple as I can put it. And that type of efficiency to actually get that information from point A to point B, you know, is definitely worth that value.
So I'd like to make one important point. The paradigm that we're discussing today is where reps are entering NBOs and having to transfer to manufacturers. But it's definitely expandable much more broadly than that. So distributors entering opportunities, obviously, for manufacturers. We're actually looking at it in the design registration process to see whether there's applicability there. Many distributors have sub-distributors that that want to capture new inventory new business opportunities as well. Hundreds of sub-distributors in Japan and places like that and value-added resellers as well. So there's while the initial model was conceived by our rep council and worked through with their principal, it is far expandable beyond that. It's a great technology that I think has got a lot of promise for the industry.
Yeah, and just kind of, I know we're kind of getting down on time. You're absolutely right. There are a number of other areas that we're looking to see if we can help in to automate the other components and the other verticals that are within your electronics industry, to see if we can't transfer, you know, data that they're currently transferring today, you know, manually, whether it be from the distributor side, whether it be, you know, design regs, whether it be, you know, a couple of things that are out there. You know, that's kind of our next step, is to look at what else we can do to really make and streamline, you know, companies like Crowley and C&K, so that they and distributors, so that you know, we can benefit all verticals.
Super. Any more questions, Deb, or should we wrap it up?
We've got one. It says, you touched on this, but can you comment again on the manufacturer's reception to allowing this interface to bolt onto their CRMs?
My standpoint, there's no issues at all. I don't know what to say.
John's a believer.
And we're still early in the game.
Yeah.
We don't know. We haven't sampled 100 different manufacturers to be able to get their answer on that. Certainly C&K has been an absolutely model trial for this. And we're hoping that our other manufacturing members especially will embrace this as a way to be able to help make their reps and other partners more efficient. It really is on the data entry side that I see the biggest. And so I spent 30 years on the supplier side. I'll say that, you know, when I had engaged new CRM partners, and I wouldn't have any hesitation on being able to engage, to be able to employ this kind of technology.
Yeah,
Well,
the last
Go
thing to
ahead.
say on that is the manufacturers will do it when the reps, you know, explain to them how powerful this can be, right? And I think that's really you know, from the ground up, if you as the representatives are saving a huge amount of time and you can bring that, you know, with us to the manufacturers, that's a really powerful statement. So it's a ground movement, you know, from the reps all the way up to the manufacturer.
Yeah, I mean, manufacturers want more sales time in front of customers.
Yes.
Period. Whether it's direct sales teams, whether it's rep sales teams, whether it's distribution sales teams, they want salespeople in front of customers, winning new business. And so this is an opportunity to be able to help with that.
Now, I'll just make, maybe it'll be a closing comment, but within our company, we do have a challenge. And that challenge is our outside salesperson may find a $5,000 or $10,000 opportunity that's very early in the stage, call it in the identification stage. There's a little hesitation for them to enter it in because that just requires them to constantly enter it. And then someone, they enter it, and then our product line manager looks at it, and then it enters into the manufacturing system. And the manufacturers usually have a mechanism to come back and ask them, hey, what's the status update? So this, I think for John's company, for C&K, our outside people don't have that kind of concern because they can put something in as a target account, get early awareness for John, and our outside salesperson doesn't have to worry about, oh, now that I get 50 NBOs for C&K, I'm going to be doing nothing but updating C&K's NBOs. It's as simple as they update it and it's done, which is part of their normal job anyway. When you get done doing your day, you update your NBOs. So if you're updating your NBOs and it creates no back and forth extra work, that lower level identification stage, I think is very important for C&K to know, not wait until we think it becomes real. I think that's, I know that's a dynamic that we have here. I'll see a lead that comes in. I'm like, well, how come how come that's not in their CRM yet? Well, now I know why. For C&K, of course, we don't do that, John.
That's right. No, I agree 1,000%. Matter of fact, a final note, I think we're gonna have to increase your bogey for this year. So it's your selling time.
Done.
Super. Well, thanks to all of you for joining. Thanks for our attendees for joining today. It's really been a successful effort on the part of all, and we're hoping that our members find tremendous benefit and the industry finds tremendous benefit from this new technology. So Alan, Peter, John, thanks so much for your time, and hope everyone's staying healthy with the COVID storm out there.
Absolutely. And
Excellent.
Debbie, would you just display the where they can actually go and contact us real quick, just so that they have it as a screenshot? And yeah, thank you, David. I really appreciate your time and putting this together. So
Super. Good deal. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend.
Yep, me too. Very good.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.